Welcome everyone to the 7th Startup Masterclass on motivation and productivity in a startup. I'm Florentina Smith from the Copernicus Accelerator team, and I'm very pleased to introduce you to Piotr, who will be your trainer for today. So I'll stop talking and let him get started.
Okay, so as usual, a very welcome. This time I'm talking to you from Warsaw. I'm not sure if you remember that the last time was from Poznan. So I'm basically traveling around Poland and Europe, and you kind of are wherever you are. And that's a good thing to spend this hour here with us. Today's webinar is going to be kind of different from those ones we had before, because it definitely deals with a lot of psychological things that are happening inside of our brain when we're thinking about things like motivations and productivity. So today's webinar is going to be about that, how to get that extra power to run an extra mile and execute the things we want to do. How not to pretend that we are busy doing stuff and actually do stuff. So that's for today, but I already like to invite you to the next webinar, which is going to be happening on the 27th of June. And then we will do a talk on how to do a startup marketing on a tight budget. And that's good news because it's doable and you do not have to have the money of Unilever or Johnson & Johnson or Nestle to do good marketing. You can do very good marketing with very scarce resources, and that's a good news for all of us. And also to remind you that we will have the parts of the webinar where we stop and have time for questions and answers. You have the Q&A thing clearly pointed to with the yellow arrow, and I'm sure you will get your ways around. So let's get started. Motivation and productivity, deep work, shallow work, and skills crucials in the 21st century. So what I wanted to say is that getting things done is hard for many reasons that lie in our head. First of all, remember when you last time had a brilliant idea. This brilliant idea felt so good. This could be a great idea of a new feature, a new startup, a new project. And then you were even excited for some time to do the stuff to execute it. But then when you had to sit down and actually do it, it didn't feel so good as before. Because how do you get things done? You don't need just the motivation. Actually, what you need is not just the motivation. Motivation is not enough. Motivation is very often connected with the initial emotion that actually drives you to do stuff. Think of that. We are motivated by our emotions. The emotions of joy motivate us to do something. The emotion of anger motivate us to do something, either to punch someone or to act, to actually put this anger into something productive. Fear is a great motivator, okay? If you're afraid you are going to miss the deadline, you are motivated as hell to do that. And especially if you fear that you're going to lose your reputation. But motivation is not just enough, because if motivation operates only on emotions, then we have all the ways to kind of cool it down, and we're not actually getting things done. What you need when you motivate is grit. A grit is a non-cognitive skill that is basically this. You get up, you do your thing, you make mistakes, you notice those mistakes, and you start over again, over and over again. Think about it like a kid learning to walk. The kids, when they're young, they are very gritty. They have an amazing grit. When kids learn to walk, and you've all been there, you might probably not remember that, your first walk is not a very decent one, okay? You fall down. Then you get up and you try again. You get up, you try again. You get up and try again. And it's a very difficult process, but in the end, you learn how to walk. But think about it. There never has been a child in the history of the humankind that after the first fall decided to look at their parents with full disbelief and dismay and said, guys, I'm not very talented. I'm not up to it. I'm not going to do it. I'll just lay down. Okay? They wouldn't do that because that wouldn't be gritty and they wouldn't learn how to walk. So think about it. How often, when faced with the realities of a hard task, we tend to think, okay, I'm just not talented. I've been there myself, okay? Let's take Photoshop. I wanted to learn Photoshop, and then I started learning the Photoshop, and then it was tough. I made a lot of mistakes. I couldn't get it. And then my first initial excuse was, okay, maybe I'm not up to it. Maybe I'm not talented. That's just stupid. It was not about talent. It was about dedicating enough time to learn this thing. So grit is everything. And what you also need to do is what you need to say no sometimes. So you need grit, but you also need to be assertive, okay? Especially if you're a startup. Because if you're a startup, you will have a lot of opportunities that will distract you from doing the thing that you do. You need to learn that your priorities are everything. The first priority is the product, the traction, the clients, the customers. All other things are not that important because priorities are everything. And if your one excuse that you did not actually go for a meeting with a client is that I don't have time, that means that that meeting was not important. Time equals priorities. So learn to say no and learn to say no in an assertive manner, okay? One reason why I don't answer all the messages on Facebook and LinkedIn is not that I don't think that they are great, that they are not great. I do it because those tiny distractions and interruptions in my life means that I'm not going to achieve something great. So, okay? So if I'm writing a book or writing an article or getting ready for this webinar, I avoid and I say no to all the distractions with the consequences, okay? Sometimes people will say me, it's hard to reach you. I cannot contact you. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I'm just choosing different priorities. And that's a very, very conscious no. And you also need to learn how to deal with perspective on things, okay? Learn the perspective. One of my favorite tasks that I usually do to teach people about the perspective and viewing things, which also affects our productivity, motivation, and well-being, is a very simple exercise I want you to do right now, actually, okay? Please grab a piece of paper. It can be a basic piece of paper, it can be even a Post-it, it can be a thing like this, nothing fancy, just a piece of paper. And now I want you to do one thing. I want you to draw a mug, okay? A cup or a mug. Don't worry, I know it sounds crazy, but I want you to do this. Draw a mug. Take 5 seconds to draw a mug. Just a simple plain mug, a cup, okay? I'm gonna do it myself too, okay? So, it took me approximately 3 seconds, so I'm sure you're ready with it. Now, I've got another task for you. Draw the most creative, crazy cup you can think about. And this crazy creative cup should be like the dream cup of your wildest imagination. Okay, so it can be the cup of a Wonder Woman, of the Superman, of the Batman, of the Lancelot, or whoever you have in mind. The crazy cup of Elon Musk. Okay, I'm drawing mine. Okay, I did mine too. And let's be honest, this exercise had nothing to do with your drawing skills, however great they are. This exercise had also nothing to do with the creative side of you, even if you felt that you're not creative, which is also not true. This exercise is about perspective. Most people, when they're asked to draw a mug, do one thing. They draw a mug like I did, and they draw a mug from this perspective. Even if sometimes they draw a sort of like a little bit of a 3D thing, but they also draw the mug from this perspective. Why? Because they are taught so, and because in our educational process, we are taught to do it this way. So we fail to actually observe that the cup can be drawn from another perspective. Okay, so that it can be that can be viewed from above, like this one. Okay, trust me, so far more than 5,000 people drew this mug in my presence with my friends and my colleagues, and only 2 people drew the mug from above. One was the girl who was actually dealing with professional photography, so she knew that she has to observe objects from different stories, from different perspectives. And this is very important, because observing from different perspective is also the key to your motivation, creativity, and your process, okay? Forget that you can only see the mug, metaphorical mug, from one perspective, okay? Add vantage points to your situation, okay? So for example, let me give you an example, for example. It sounds very poetic. Some time ago, I was flying from Gdańsk, where I live, to Rzeszów, okay? And that's where perspective comes in. If you want to fly from Gdańsk to Rzeszów, you have to change planes in Warsaw, in central Poland. I already knew something was wrong when I was getting on board the plane in Gdańsk to Warsaw, because we were late. And that meant that I was probably going to miss the plane from Warsaw to Rzeszów. When I landed in Warsaw, it apparently happened so that I missed the plane. What's worse, the next plane was in 7 hours. Imagine this, a domestic flight that usually takes only 45 minutes, and I have to wait for 7 hours to take a 45 minutes flight. Horrible. But then I added a vantage point, and I took another perspective. And I thought to myself, okay, this is 7 hours, regardless of how you view it, but this is 7 hours. You can either stay there at the airport, whining, complaining, and posting on Facebook how mad you are with the airline, or you can actually sit down and get things done. I've started writing articles. I've started answering emails. So that's it. 7 hours is 7 hours. How you're going to use it depends on you. It's a perspective. On the plane, on the train, I'm always using time consciously. I don't want time to be spent unconsciously. 50% of your success, basically, that's a rough estimate, depends on your genes, your skills, your predestined destiny, whatever you might call it. It's 50% roughly. That's the research by Sonia Lubomirsky. Add to this 10% of external conditions, like where you were born, where you live, what school you went to, and stuff like that. Okay? So that's it. And that adds up to 60%. So you may wonder, what is the 40% left? 40% is your ability to view the reality, not just from one perspective, but from 2. And that can be very helpful, okay? I'm sure you get it, but now it's time to get it into behavioral practice, meaning that the next time something happens that kind of angers you, try to put it into another perspective. Next time you're stuck in a traffic jam, try to find good things in it and not just bad things, because bad things are easy to find. Why? Because our brain is trained to do so, okay? So the brain is trained to see the threats. Teach it to see good things. And the brain is a funny thing also when it comes to motivation, because I'm sure you know that there are two systems in our mind that are in conflict altogether. The one is instant gratification. We like to observe the results of our things done instantly. So if I eat a chocolate cake, I instantly am gratified. If I play a video game, I'm instantly gratified. If I check email, that's a funny thing, I'm also instantly gratified. Why? Because I go there and there is something there waiting. Sometimes it's not good, but still, it's a reward. But there is also another system, and that's the delayed gratification. What's best for us in the future? So I think most of people agree that having a healthy lifestyle is good in the long term. Also, working on a project regularly and avoiding distractions and working with your team in quiet and a deep work mode is better for the future award. But unfortunately, our brain constantly wants to be rewarded instantly, gratified instantly. And that is the whole problem with motivation, okay? And with distractions and also procrastination, okay? So I think that the next time you're feeling demotivated or you are feeling have to make the choice between what's great now and pleasant now, and maybe ask yourself the question, oh, what's better for me in a long term? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example, and it's going to be an example that is easy to understand. Let's say I'm traveling from Warsaw, where I am, to Gdańsk tomorrow. That's not a very hypothetical situation. It's going to happen. And on the train, I have 3.5 hours to do something with that time. And I'm sure I will be tempted after the whole day of workshops and conference talks to do nothing, to browse the Facebook, to even watch Netflix, and basically not do anything substantial. But I also know that it would be good in the long term to work on an article I'm actually due end of June. So if I ask myself this question, it kind of helps me. Okay, what's better in the long run? It's almost as if asking yourself question in the morning, if you really don't want to get up and you don't even want to, do any kind of a fitness routine, what's better in the long run? Or if you're standing in front of a fast food, what's better in the long run? Okay. And also we can learn one crucial skill. And with that skill, we can learn from Richard Feynman. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this brilliant physicist mind. Richard Feynman knew that his priority was physics. So whenever someone asked him outside of physics about something, to do something, he would say, I'm irresponsible. Let George do it. I'm not sure who George was, but that's a great excuse. I'm irresponsible. That's not important to me. Someone else do it. I'm doing physics because physics is my field. So all of you, please learn to be assertive. Don't worry about the reactions of people. You will never please everyone around the globe. Sometimes say no even to attractive things that are not in the scope of your priorities. If you're working on the MVP, focus on the MVP. Focus on the beta testers. Don't focus on everything all other time. Even if you feel like, declining the invitation to this conference talk or this startup meeting might be the end of your history. It will not be. It will be if you don't do your job providing the MVP and meeting the customer's demand. So now I'm sure we have time for the Q&A. The drill is like this. You ask the question, and I listen to the questions, and I answer the questions if I know the answer, of course.
Great. There are no questions at the moment, but I actually had one that I thought might be useful for everyone.
Okay.
So you mentioned that it's really important to learn how to say no. I was wondering if you have a good technique to do that. For example, if you have some co-workers that have asked for some of your time, but you don't have the time, how would you approach that situation?
I would definitely say that I would definitely explain my point. I mean, not over-explain it, but my technique is like this. First of all, if you're assertive, you definitely have to describe the situation and say why you are actually declining, but always put a positive message behind it. So for example, okay, this sounds like an interesting thing, but I have my priorities to do. And those priorities include this. Or for example, clear rules. From 10 to 11, I'm always working in a deep work mode. I'm going to explain later what a deep work is. So at that time, I'm not answering questions. Even in my note, in my footnote, in my email, I will answer this email within 3 working days. Because I've realized that a lot of time people just have this sense of urgency, and they think that if they bombard you with questions from all the messengers, that you are somehow obliged and pressured to do it. And I don't want to be under the pressure. That doesn't mean that I'm rude. That only means that I know my priorities. And I don't want to be the hero of the mailbox. I want to be the hero of my priorities. Okay, so if I'm writing on a book in a deep work mode, that's my answer. So clearly state that this is good, but this is not for now. Okay, good. So I'm sure we're going to go further with that, and that means that we are going furthermore. You also need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there are a lot of skills that you're acquiring right now, but it turns out that in the 21st centuries, the skills will change. Like, for example, the skill of empathy is going to be replaced by the skill of empathetic concern. The skill of proactive listening is going to be crucial, but not as crucial as critical thinking. So you always have to learn, unlearn sometimes, and sometimes relearn. Don't stick to your patterns. Oh, by the way, I saw that there's one more question, but we will answer that in the next Q&A session, okay? If that's fine with you guys. So there is also the power of yet, which is also a very important element of our motivation and productivity. Do you know that there is a school in Chicago where they don't have they don't keep score. So they don't give you've got a straight A, or you've got C or C minus or C plus or even D. If a child makes mistakes, they get a note saying not yet, meaning that there is a chance of progress, and that is so cool. So whenever you're doing something and you're working on something, or you're working with your team, and the team is not yet there, tell them that you appreciate their effort, but it's not yet. The power of yet is essential in creating something that we call a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a mindset characterized by a few things. One thing is that you perceive yourself as a person, individual, who can learn new things, and all it takes is effort and time dedicated. Opposed to that is a fixed mindset where people think that things like IQ, talents are just given and they stay with you for your whole life, which is basically not true. but there are people like that. Growth mindset is also capable of understanding that if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And if you make a mistake, you don't need to find people to blame for that mistake. Fixed mindset usually looks someone to blame. So the fixed mindset and the growth mindset are very important. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will always have the growth mindset, but trust me, it's so much better to believe that you are the set of very flexible, agile talents that can be developed with hard work. And you have to also learn the skill of small habits that make everything better. Trust me, the best small habit that I've ever had is this: make your bed. It's the simplest thing that you can do in the morning, but it affects the whole day. And I know it sounds kind of weird. We're having this webinar, we are startups. What is he talking about making the bed? Making the bed is already giving you a good start of the day because you accomplished something. And this accomplishment actually gives a little bit of a good fuel to this instant gratification. And that is a good advice. If you have a lot of tasks, divide them into smaller tasks where you can instantly feel that you've achieved something. There are some tasks that are so huge that we fail to realize that we're actually achieving steps. So when I was writing a book, which is a large task, I was always dividing into the smaller tasks, even the research part, to sort of gratify myself. And you look into the microscope and you ask the good questions. What's better for me in the long run? Think of it as a metaphor, okay? This is a very good question and a very good metaphor. Wherever I'm at the airport or the shopping mall, I usually see two rows of stairs. One is the escalator, and the other one is regular stairs. And I'm always tempted to take the escalator, which would be easy, it would be less effort, and probably could be even more fun because I could, browse my smartphone. But at the same time, I remind myself that in the long run, taking the stairs, the regular stairs, is actually better for me. Well, of course, unless I have a broken leg or something like that, but regularly, it's so much better because it's a physical activity. And think of it as a metaphor. Of course, it is so nicer to spend the evening with friends, Netflix. It's so nice to actually pretend that you are working, doing a lot of meetings, brainstorming, and meeting with the clients and networking at the conferences. But that's not getting things done. Work is progressing. Everything else that is keeping you from progressing is not actually work. I mean, it's kind of lubricating the whole situation. And I'm really tough about it because I've seen so many people who are actually not doing anything. They just have this one creative idea of a startup and they are not working on it. They are pretending they're working on it, especially in the corporate crowd. That's like 80% of the time is pretending that we're working. We're not actually working. And of course it's easier. But then every now and then, get up and go up the regular stairs. Don't take the escalator, metaphorical or not, okay? So the brain is a tricky thing. We usually procrastinate. Do you know what procrastination is? It's an irrational tendency to put things that we're supposed to do now for later, even knowing the deadline. Why we procrastinate, okay? You might think that some people procrastinate because they are lazy or they have low self-control, or maybe they procrastinate actually because they don't have enough grit even. That's not actually the truth. We procrastinate because it has to do a lot with emotions and regulations. We procrastinate the things we fear. We procrastinate the things that seem dull. We procrastinate the things that seem too large to make it. We procrastinate the things that make us uncomfortable. Think of the last time when you procrastinated the very important talk you had to have with the investor, or where you procrastinated the talk you were supposed to have with your friend, a difficult one. Why we procrastinate that? Because it's difficult. And it's not difficult because we cannot do it, but it's difficult emotionally. So that's the thing. Why we procrastinate and how we procrastinate is a totally different thing. And here comes my absolute favorite slide of today, I'm sure. This is a short, brief introduction into the procrastinating styles. I'm sure you will find yourself in one of those. And by the way, I do not think that there are no procrastinators. There are procrastinators. We just procrastinate in different ways. For example, there is a cleaner. I procrastinate as a cleaner. So if there is a tough task to do, I will probably clean up my house. I will put all my spices in an alphabetical order. I will brush. I will mop the floors to the point where you can have an open heart surgery in my kitchen. But I will not do the things that I should do. Instead, I will do the things I can do, and that give me instant gratification. Another type is list maker. Okay, it's an amazing, it's an amazing person. They are doing a lot of lists of the things that should be done, never actually doing the things, but still having a lot of lists. There's the panicker, someone who is panicking always. Then there is the researcher. Okay, research. You might think, okay, what's so bad about researching before you do the project? Well, it's only good if at some point you actually decide to do the project and not just research the project all the time. Then, too late. Oh, that's my favorite one. Okay. Have you ever been in a situation where you actually were about to start doing something, but then you realized, oh, it's 7:30 already. That's too late. I'm going to start tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, if you have that, don't do that. Do that for half an hour and the rest tomorrow. But don't say that it's too late for everything to do anything. Then there's the gamer, obvious reasons. So let's just play one more game and then we will start doing it. The Netflixer. Oh, a very popular one now. Okay. Just one more episode. Just one more episode. And look how brilliant Netflix did their technology. Not only they kind of hint you that the next episode will start in 6, 5, 4 minutes, but also, and that's a cool thing, they're making their episodes kind of short. So you don't feel like you're wasting your whole life watching an hour and a half episode. It's just 23 minutes. That's not bad. Well, let me tell you the truth. You could have spent this 23 minutes differently. And by the way, a little disclaimer. I'm not saying that watching Netflix or napping is something bad, but only if it's a reward after a job done, not if it's like the thing you do instead of doing the job. So that's a totally different story. Napping, okay, nothing bad with napping, but if you're, competing in the napping competition, that can be one a skill, but if you're napping instead of doing the job, not good. Social media guru, okay? There we are, an amazing workshop. Let me take a selfie. Or, wow, look at me working here from Starbucks. Great vibes. Or, wow, another secret project I'm working on it. How cool is that? How cool is not that? I mean, you're basically just announcing people that you're working, and God knows if you're really working. Either, let me just have a little snack. Let me just check if something has changed in the refrigerator since 10 minutes ago. No, it has not changed. Looking for opportunities. Okay, our project is so great and we will surely start working on it very soon. But now let me just take a little look around and look for other opportunities. Oh, this is a great one. Oh, this is a great one. And it especially touches me when I see startups who are supposed to be working on the MVP, but at the same time, they're looking for different options and looking for options and different functionalities. Oh, that would be great to add on. That would be great to add on. Yeah, actually procrastinating doing the real thing. And ultra delegating is a person who is not doing anything because they're delegating everything to the others. Don't do it. Q&A. Now we've got 2 questions there waiting for us. I'm sure we will have some more. So hit me.
Great. So we have the question from Peter here. He said, I agree that motivation is a fickle thing that doesn't last long. The long run, so delayed motivation point of view, is very interesting and helpful to strengthen working self-discipline. But what's your opinion on ratio, work versus rest, to avoid burning out?
Oh, I think I can't give you an instant ratio. I think it's a very interesting point you're making here, because very often very passionate people tend to forget that you also have to plan the rest. So I would say that on my daily list, if I have a to-do list for the day, I also have like 20% of my evening dedicated to real fun time, or like really downtime, or even shut down rituals. So this ratio is, I think that, it's very individual probably, but if you end up working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's a dangerous thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, passion is great. And there's this whole discussion in the world of startups where you have people who tell you to always hustle, always be hustling. You have people like Gary Vaynerchuk who say, if you're not working, you are losing. And there's this whole pressure. But then at the same time, you have people like the CEO of Reddit who says that's insane. We should stop doing that because that's a bad culture. It's leading to burnout, it's leading to conflicts, and it's leading to insane things. And I think that it's very good to have in mind both of those things. Okay, I have the intense times of work, but then I decide to take 2 or 3 days off, especially if the times are tough in terms of intensity of the training. So, and I always dedicate time for sports. So one thing that I'm always telling to all my startups and all my amazing people in the startup world, I say, don't neglect things like sleep, some physical activity, and good rest and good diet. Okay, I know that Red Bulls and pizza are kind of the thing, but don't just eat on that, because sooner or later you will have your project done, but you will lose your health, and that's not a very balanced thing. So I always sometimes even give people advice like, go for a walking meeting. So because it also boosts your creativity. So if you have a brainstorming session with your team, why not do it outside and go into a park and walk? You will see the difference. It's kind of combining the two. Okay, and the next question?
The next question is also from Peter. He said, can you please explain what empathetic concern is?
Oh, empathetic concern is, empathy is, especially cognitive empathy, is viewing the world through the eyes of the other. So, for example, if I want to see how the world looks for my user, and I know that my user is a middle-aged woman living in the suburban area of outside of Munich, I would probably not dress up as a woman, but I would probably at least use the S-Bahn. I would walk around. So that would be like trying to view the world with her eyes. I mean, not driving around in a BMW, but taking the public transport, for example. But empathetic concern is, I see the world through your eyes, and how can I help you? So I'm doing something more on top of that. And that's basically should be the DNA of most of the startups, where you not only see the world through the eyes of the customer, but you're also coming up with options to help them. Okay. Okay. Thank you for those good questions, Peter. Very, very interesting. What you need to know to observe and learn from yourself. Okay. I have learned to observe what works for me and what doesn't work. And that also includes my daily rituals. I know that every now and then we have those fads like CrossFit or multitasking versus monotasking. Some of them are science-based, so I think they're kind of legit. But also, you have to filter them through your own experience. So, for example, I have learned that I'm a lark, meaning that I can really wake up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I can work. But that means that after 6 o'clock, I'm basically dead. So you are not going to observe that because we will finish by 6, but I'm dead. And that means that I'm trying to plan most of the things toward the beginning of the day. But at the same time, I do realize that there are people who are kind of dead at 5:30. So that's observing and learning. And also learning how to change and that you can change. And now speaking about the motivation, and that's part of the webinar today, I want to tell you about a little experiment. When we think about the motivation, we look at it on 3 levels. The first level of motivation, and that's for all of you guys who are working with your teams, is we believe that if we tell people that something is important, they will do it. And then we usually fail. So let's imagine there is a meeting of the manager or a team leader, and he says, okay, it's very important that we finish this project by the end of June, and this is very important that we do it this way and that way, and this is very important that we kind of avoid any security breaches. And then we believe that this will happen because we told people that it's important. It doesn't work this way, even if they agree with us. Why? Well, let's think about it. Most people agree that eating healthy food is beneficial, but then they don't end up eating healthy food. Because it's one thing to admit that something is good for us, and the other thing is doing it. Sorry about the finger. That was supposed to be the second. The second was supposed to be the stick and carrot method, okay? So we think, okay, we reward the people for doing the good stuff, we punish them for doing the bad stuff. That works with very simple things like working at a factory or very simple routine tasks, but it doesn't work with creative tasks. And I'm sure as startups, you have a lot of that. What works is an interesting motivation that is based on 3 pillars. And listen up, because those are very important. If you're structuring the organization culture in your startup, and these are this: autonomy, meaning that people, to a certain extent, have to have the autonomy of choices and the methods they choose to achieve a goal. So it's more like results-only work environment called ROLE, okay? Autonomy, okay? So I don't care how you do it, just get there, okay? I'm not going to interfere with your ways, ideas, your work schedule, whatever. The second pillar of that is mastery, meaning that we have to allow ourselves and our teammates to develop their skills that they are the best at. So if you have someone who is really great at sales, you let him become better at sales. And then there is the autonomy, mastery, and the third pillar, which is purpose. Purpose. And by purpose, I mean that we know what we're doing, we know why we're doing it, and we know why it matters, okay? In startups, I do believe, and I know it sounds kind of pathetic, but I do believe that startups are the doers and the changers of the world. So keep that motivation. And I'm going to tell you about a little experiment. Some time ago, a guy named Glusberg made the experiment that is called the candle problem. And in the candle problem setting, you have 3 elements. You have the candle that is lit. You have the box full of safety pins. You have a table. And you have to stick the candle to the wall so that the wax from the dripping candle would not fall on the floor, on the table. And people this is a creative task, and somehow they managed to do it. But the scientists were more interested in how we can motivate people to come up faster with the solution to that problem. And The thing is, they gave them two incentives. One was whoever solves this solution first is going to get money. So it was like the carrot kind of thing. And the others heard, okay, guys, we need you to establish the average time needed for this task. You're crucial in this experiment. You're important. And guess what? The second team kicked the first team's ass. How? By beating them by 3 minutes. Why? Because in the creative tasks, if you have only the financial incentive, the reward, it is counterproductive. Actually, it hinders the creative process. So no carrot and no stick, just this. But remember, there is also the state of quo and the thing of not doing things, okay, not changing. The cost of time wasted. This is my friend who is a very intelligent guy, as you can see because he's wearing glasses. No, but jokes aside, he learns new things very fast. Why? He dedicates time. So last time I met him, he said, I want to learn how to edit movies. And not just doing it with an iPhone, but just really seriously doing it, camera, set, action, editing it, cool stuff. But it takes time. But he takes time to learn it. And he goes into the deep work mode. A deep work mode is the time when you work with no distraction in full focus, achieving the flow. The opposite of the shallow work. There's a website called Will Robots Take My Job? And I'm safe, 98% safe. And in the 21st century, apparently, those who will learn how to do the deep work are safe, as Cal Newport, the author of the Deep Work book, says. Deep work is something that is crucial. It means that you not only manage your time, but you manage your attention. Shallow work is a typical work where you just don't do the distractions, where you just don't ignore the distractions, when you are constantly a bit like an event-driven person, like the equivalent of the human Pavlov dogs that reacts to every stimuli, every notification, every question, every offer, and you forget what is important. Okay, I see a lot of shallow work in the organizations. Today I was doing, for example, the workshop in one company in Warsaw here, and you wouldn't believe the beginning of this workshop. Everyone was distracted. They had incoming emails, phone calls, people were leaving, coming in, and talking. And when they were working on their emails, all of a sudden they were turning their heads and, oh, I've just remembered this interesting story. And they were sharing the story. It was a total bedlam. No deep work, only shallow work. I wonder how any work gets done then in time. And one thing I know about time, and I'm sure this kind of partially answers the Peter's question, is that in order, if you want to really know how you manage time, you have to do a good diagnosis. And I did that diagnosis. I spent a lot of time thinking how I spend my time. And for that diagnosis, I used a tool that I recommend you using too. This tool is like this. First, you write down your top priorities, like it can be the values that you value, or it can be the top jobs that you need to do. So for example, in my, where top priorities, be healthy, be a good person, or do great job, write books and everything. Like do what is important, like a to-do general list, what's important. And then you start diagnosing yourself with an Excel spreadsheet. How cool is that? Very, very simple. You open an Excel spreadsheet and you put 7 columns, like 7 days of the week, because the week has 7 days, not 5 and not 2, 7. And then you have 7 columns and 48 lines, rows, that are equivalent of half an hour intervals in your day. And then you start honestly filling in each half an hour with the things you are actually doing. But don't cheat on that. So, for example, if you come into the office at 8 and leave at 4, don't just instantly say 8 hours of work. No, be honest, because that's an honest diagnosis. I did that too. And I was quite happy with the results. I saw that I'm spending quite a lot of time on being healthy, decent in that department. I spend a lot of time working, decent. I spent a lot of time on working projects, but I didn't spend enough time on my family and my relations. But I spent a lot of time, those 3: notifications, messages, and emails. And I decided, hell no, I don't want to be that person. And I decided to be hygienic about it. For emails, twice a day, I have booked space to answer emails for half an hour, twice a day. Great thing. If I manage to answer, I do that. Then I use something that I call for emails, and that's a brutal one, but you're going to learn it. It's a brutal and it's great. It's called 3 rules of email response, okay? And it goes like this. Delete emails based on the following 3 rules of email response. Okay, you delete it if it's ambiguous or otherwise makes it very hard for you to generate a reasonable response. You just don't know how to answer to that email. You don't know what's going on. Just delete it. It's not a question or proposal that interests you. Delete it. Or nothing really good would happen if you did respond to it, and nothing really bad would happen if you didn't. Delete it. As for the messages, no. I sometimes ignore messages on Facebook if they're not my concern. I mean, I'm not going to answer everything. Sorry for that. Actually, sorry, not sorry. I mean, this is my life, and I'm going to spend and live with the decisions how I spend my time with it. I'm not going to spend it answering every single message on the messenger. I'm not working in some damn call center. Take that into consideration. And then there is also notifications, okay? I work with my smartphone far away from me, okay? No notifications. It's on the quiet mode, sometimes even airplane mode. Okay, if I'm working, I'm working. I'm not going to be distracted. Because technology is dishonest, and I don't want to be an event-driven person. Event-driven person is the person who is the equivalent of the Pavlov's dog, reacts to everything, okay? Technology is not being honest with that, and be watch for it, okay? So for example, if someone tags me in the photo, the notification on that would be see the photo. But actually it should be see the photo and spend 20 minutes, not knowing that the 20 minutes have passed. Okay? Netflix. Next episode is playing in 6 seconds. No, it should be. So if you have something more important to do, or you're sleep deprived, or have a big day tomorrow, turn it off. Be a reasonable hero. Technology is not going to do it for us. We have to set those reminders. Okay? All in all, it's time well spent. Or it's time spent, I don't know where. It's like with money. Some people have very clear standards about how they spend their money, and they are good with it. Some people are surprised. Where have all my money go? And the same is go with time, okay? YouTube, oh, that's a fine one, okay? The next episode. No, it's going to be 32 minutes of your life. Are you going to really waste it, okay? Mind for those 2 things. Instant gratification. Technology also, and distractions and notification gives at that. Okay, watch the time. And I view time as 168 minutes I get every week, 24/7. And I want to know how I spend it, and I want to tweak it. I don't want to be a control freak. I just want to know that every moment that I spend is used mindfully. Each moment is my choice, my mindful choice. Ask yourself, what are your priorities in terms of your projects? And change the language. Instead of saying, I don't have time, say, it's not that important to me. Because I don't have time is a very universal excuse when it comes to productivity. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to finish this project. I don't have time to edit that post I'm about to post. I don't have time. Who has time for that? No, instead of just say it's not that important to me, and we'll be fine, okay? If it's not that important to you to go to the gym, or it's not that important for you to sleep, don't sleep. But don't tell others you don't have time for sleep, okay? But actually, honestly, have time for sleep. And also multitasking, that is the plague. Multitasking is multislacking. Because when you're multitasking, you're actually switching your attention all the time. And it creates something that is called the attention residues. So that's very bad. And that leads us to the last question and answer Q&A thing, and my recommendation will follow. So
thanks, Piotr. There's no more questions at the moment. Maybe one or two might come through in the next minute or so, but I did have one more question from my side that also might be useful. So you mentioned that autonomy is really important for motivating the people who are working with you. And I know that often with startups and with founders, they can be quite, what's the word, pedantic about the work that's being done on their projects. So do you have any advice for these founders to sort of let go a little bit?
Well, you just said it, let go. There is a very understandable human trait that tells you to stay in control of many things. But at the same time, controlling everything means that you don't trust people that they will do the job well. And it also means that even maybe you're not hiring the right people to do the job because you don't trust that they will do it. I tend to think that there are people who are so much wiser than me, and that it's very important to actually work with them. And I don't even know how they do the job they do, but they do it very well. Let me give you an example. Some time ago, I was working on an individual project in a company. It was like a startup thing next to a company, glued to the company. And I myself got a huge autonomy on this project. But at the same time, I got a great team of front-end developer and graphic designer in one person, back-end developer, genius, and content creator. We were supposed to do this e-commerce content marketing kind of a thing. And we did. I just gave those people the idea. I gave them why it's important. I set the purpose. I told them about the deadlines we had. And then I listened to their ideas. And then I said, okay, let's do it. And let's just do it step by step. At that time, I did not know about agile. I did not know about, all this fancy thing. I just trusted the people that I worked with, and they delivered. Of course, if after 1 week it would turn out that they're not doing anything, I would probably revise or just hire another bunch of people. But it was so great and so rewarding, because then we were so productive, okay? So productive in that. So I think it's just thinking to yourself, why am I actually the person who wants to have everything under control? Ask yourself that question. What is it in me? Do I distrust people? Well, that's wrong. Why do I not trust people? Do I have some bad experiences? What's wrong with that? One thing that I would really definitely recommend all of you guys is to, first of all, ask yourself those couple of questions. What's better for me in the long run? What's really important to me? What are my priorities? What works best for me? What doesn't work for me? And then read the book Drive by Daniel H. Pink, who is really great. And also, you might read the book by Kelly McGonigal called The Willpower. That's great book. Okay, so guys, as I told you, this was going to be sort of a different webinar, because it kind of had a lot of motivational and productivity hints. It was things that you might use not only in the startup world, but also just in life, and enlighten people that multitasking is actually multislacking, and enlighten them that saying that something that they don't have time for something, it means that maybe it's not that important. Okay. If I tell people I don't have time to clean my garage, that's a lie. I'm not doing it because it's not that important. If someone told me, Peter, we're going to pay you $100,000 to clean your garage today, trust me, I would pack my stuff right now. I would go on the last train to where I live, and I would clean this garage till tomorrow morning, not sleeping. And it all of a sudden I would have time for that. So it's not a question of having time, it's a question of priorities. So thank you so much, and see you all. And please invite everyone on the 27th, because it's going to be my last meeting with you, and it's going to be a startup webinar on marketing on a tight budget. And if you have a huge marketing budget, don't come, but I'm sure you don't. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. And thank you all for joining the session today. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.